Hello everyone, I have returned. I don't do a lot of tag videos, but it's the Rob and Hobb tag video. Sorry for my brief absence. My CPU ever so slightly decided it didn't want to live anymore. So now I have a new CPU that has RGB lighting, so is therefore much fancier, and it isn't broken. So let's get into the Rob and Hobb tag. So I think it's probably implicit that you can't pick from Rob and Hobb, but when it I think the Council of BookTube has decided that you can't pick Rob and Hobb things from the Rob and Hobb tag. Well,
I recognize the council has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
So I'm gonna try and not pick Rob and Hobb things, but for some of them it's just like I can't. So the first prompt is the skill, which is my favorite magical ability, and I am going to be taking from Mistborn. I've taken Alloy of Law on the basis that it's on the top of the stack, but also I feel like Allomancy is too broad, so I'm going to specifically take Steel for Allomancy, so Alloy of Law is quite fitting, given the protagonist. I am taking this not because it'd be my favorite ability to have. There's obviously much cool abilities. Steel is just objectively worse than Flight or Telekinesis. But it's one of my favorite abilities to read because its limitation of pushing only on metal completely away from you forces creativity. And it's one of the great examples of like why adding a limitation actually ends up with like more creative and wonderful scenes. And I think I think Steel kind of carries Allomancy. If you removed Steel from Mistborn's ability, a lot of scenes in Mistborn would be a lot less interesting. So I'm taking Steel as my favorite magical ability. So the next tag is the Fitz tag, which is, of course, a book that made you cry because even the people making this tag are just dunking on Fitz. Poor guy. Again, this is actually the first one, so not again. Here I really want to pick a Rob and Hobb book. Like, I want to pick Assassin's Fate. It's the Assassin's Fate and Fool's Errand are the books that the most made me cry. But instead I'm going to go with the most recent book, which is The Lions of Al-Rasan by Guy Gavriel Kay. Guy Gavriel Kay has joked that his, his epitaph, I think that's the word for like short poem that usually goes on gravestones, whatever, is gonna say like Guy Gavriel Kay, he made people cry, and that was definitely true for the Lions of Al-Rasan, especially the penultimate chapter of the book, but in general Guy Gavriel Kay very much gets the emotions from me. I obviously can't say what made me cry, but this definitely did do it, and it's one of the reasons why it's in contention for my favorite not Rob and Hobb book of the year, and why I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. And it's really probably one of my favorite books of all time, and why I bought, like, all those Guy Gavriel Kay books. So, The Lions of Al-Rasan gets the Fitz Award. The next prompt is my favorite friend or friend group, and again, I would like to pick the Fitz and the Fool, or not, that's the name of the series, Fitz and the Fool. But actually, this one would be pretty close, because friend group I feel is more fun, and I am picking Bridge 4. From the Stormlight Archives, and a really good point for Bridge 4 over Fitz and the Fool is that by answering Bridge 4, I get to take out and look at the leather bounds of the Way of Kings, which are the nicest books I own. So that's a really good point in favor of Bridge 4, but also it's probably my favorite friend group in fantasy. I love how it has both its origin in the Way of Kings, and how it's evolved over time, and how Sanderson over time has started to focus more on characters. One of my favorite things about rereading Stormlight is going back to the Way of Kings, and reading the Way of Kings, understanding the characters of Bridge 4 way better. It's also very unfortunate when you're rereading the Way of Kings after having read Rhythm of War, and Kaladin mentions the name of a bridgeman, and you're just like, I don't recognize you. your lifespan is limited. That's a bit of an oof. But I'm going to take Bridge 4. So much about their origin and their companionship and how many amazing characters on there are just so amazing. And again, just like I get to hold up the leather bound. Like, look at it. Look at it. It's so nice. Yeah, that's my pick for favorite friend group. So the next prompt is Althea, which is your favorite protagonist. And for this one, I am going to break the rule of not picking a Realm of the Elderlings characters, but I have a really good defense. And that is that the other person I would pick is like Harry Dresden. But you'll see why I don't want to pick Harry Dresden for this. And so I am, of course, going to pick Fitz, Chivalry, Farseer. Leslie, by the way, in her interview with Alan, she's who tagged me for this, mentioned how good the UK Hobb editions smell, like for book smell, and it's so true, Leslie. It's so true. Anyway, so I'm taking Fitz. He's my favorite protagonist. His evolution and how well you know him, his connection with animals, his origin as a bastard who has like multiple different like foster parent like relationships with people and how they've influenced him in his life is just so absurdly wonderful. He's one of those characters who it's so great to see him through the life because Hobb is so ridiculously good at balancing his nature versus how like his life has affected him. She's so good at like the way Fitz sees himself, a lot of the time like impacting what people think about Fitz and how he sees the world. One thing you'll realize after you read Live Ship and then you come back to Fitz is that he has an incredibly distinctive and well-realized voice, which if you only have read Farseer, you might think that's just Hobb's voice, but no, that is Fitz's voice. And as you can guess from the fact that the prompt named after Fitz is Book That Made You Cry, Fitz has a rough go at life. He starts the series as like a bastard who has like the reject, and he basically is seen as a danger, so has to be useful. And it's the funny thing is he's not even in the first trilogy. He's not even my favorite character, despite being like a first person character. I actually said in the first trilogy that I thought the relationships between the characters was more of a strength, and like the side characters was more of a strength than Fitz. But he turned it around in Fool's Errand, and then just continued to be one of the most well-realized, emotionally connected characters, complicated characters I've ever experienced. So the next prompt is the Ophelia tag, which is a boat, but and that's a sassy character. And I could pick Ophelia. It's a good name for the tag, but I am going to pick Harry Dresden, or Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden, which is why I didn't want to pick him for the previous tag. Harry, and I'm holding up Blood Rights because I believe this is probably the book where he hits peak sassiness. He's as he's gotten older, he's wizened a little bit and reduced the level of talk by a small amount. But this is the book where someone asks him if he's always sarcastic, and he says, no, sometimes I'm asleep. So this is, I think, peak Harry sass. Harry, like, is not only sassy, he's really good at it as well. There are some authors who are not good at having characters talk while they fight. Jim Butcher is very, very good at it, and Harry not shutting up to super powerful beings will not stop being funny. Jim has said that like it's been toned down in the last few years, and Jim has said it's like unfortunately Harry's wizened up a little bit and has started to actually realize like how much trouble it can get him in. So the days of peak Harry sassiness may be behind us because of character development, which is lame, but whatever, he's great, and he is definitely one of my favorite sassy characters in the genre, and his banter is so good. So next we have my favorite magical world or setting, which I almost picked something from Sun Eater before realizing it's sci-fi and the specific setting I was going to pick a planet is magical. So instead, I'm bringing out the leather band again, and I'm picking Roshar. I could have picked a lot of stuff here. I could have picked the Malazan Empire. I could have picked Randland, Wheel of Time World. I could have picked a lot of stuff, but Roshar is as unique and as vibrant and as well thought out and as huge and epic as any of those, and along with being amazing, it has nostalgia in its favor, and it means I get to show off the leather bounds again. We got a full color map in here, people. I'm sorry, this video became an attack on everyone's wallet, as well as a Robin Hobb book tag, but Roshar is my favorite setting. Don't you love the uniqueness of, it's like, so storms, for those of you who have not read Stormlight, the way this map works is there's a storm that goes around the world constantly, and the storms get weaker and weaker as you go on. So these are all like open plains, and then basically as you move west, it gets more and more like our world, and then Shinovar looks basically like Earth, and it's really funny because obviously Sanderson, like a character, isn't going to be like, unlike what you would expect. The ground doesn't look like, what you might see on Scadrial or some random planet named Earth, and it looks more like the bottom of the ocean, and then they obviously don't do that. And then when they see stuff from Shinovar, they're like, what? The grass doesn't move when you touch it. It's great. There's so many stuff that he made unique. I love the technological evolution of Roshar. Not only is it evolving over time, it's evolving, they're taking a different path than humanity did. I love the idea of, because of the magic and the available and magical elements, their technology takes a different path from electricity and industrialization because it's just not the most practical option. It's so fascinating to me. It's so unique, like the wildlife, even. I love Roshar. So it gets the award for this tag. Speak again the ancient oaths. Roshar. And next is the Nighteyes prompt, and this is a prompt where I am not willing to not pick a Hobb character, because the answer is Nighteyes. It's obviously Nighteyes. It's not even close to being anyone other than Nighteyes. If it wasn't Nighteyes, it would be Mouse from the Dresden Files, but it's not Mouse because it's Nighteyes. And the reason is that I think most animal companions, a large factor of people liking them, which I'm not saying this is bad, this is just everyone, is they remind us of actual animals. Like, cute dog in book. It's like, oh, dogs are great. Nighteyes is actually a really complicated, multifaceted, well-realized characters whose actions are represented by the situations he's grown up and who he is as a person and his distinct personality, who has nuanced relationships and flaws and character development. And it's not like character development that's just improving its flaws. It's like real evolution as a person who has nuanced relationships, and the culture he grows up in influences him throughout his life, and he does this while still feeling like a wolf. He is as much as I love Mouse from the Dresden Files, if I ask someone, who's your favorite fantasy character of all time, and they said Mouse, that would be a little bit silly. Because, Mouse is great, but Mouse is not complex, right? He's not. He has some depth to him, but you mostly love Mouse because of, the goodness that he represents that we also see in dogs. And that's wonderful. If someone told me that Nighteyes, a wolf, was their favorite character of all time, I would actually, they wouldn't be picking that they might not be picking that based on being a wolf. Like, there's actually a case that Nighteyes is one of the best written characters in the genre. It's out of this world. He's so far ahead of literally everyone else. No one else comes close. So I can't pick someone else because he's a better animal companion, like a better written and more compelling animal companion than every other animal companion combined. Yeah, like, you can tell that I feel passionately about this. Wolves have no kings, but if they did, he would be it. I don't know if that's true. He's actually probably just a somewhat, like, he's not actually a special wolf. I'm not giving anything away. Trust me, I'm not spoiling that Nighteyes is secretly a king of wolves. That's not a thing. That would be kind of stupid, because wolves don't have kings, so they wouldn't care about that. That's not how wolves work. Anyways, Nighteyes by a country mile. Let's go. And next up is Brashen, favorite love interest, which is funny because Brashen is like not in contention for the most iconic love interest in Realm of the Elderlings. It's kind of funny that this is picked based on Brashen, but whatever. For this, I am picking, I'm not going to say the person's name, but the main love interest of the protagonist in Codex Avalon by Jim Butcher. Obviously, I'm not saying who it is, so I can't say that much about it, but she's wonderful. I think only gets like one POV, which is a shame, but one of those characters that manages to be incredibly distinctive and feel like a person who you know while you're reading it, who has just so much personality. She's wonderful. Like, if you don't like this character, I don't know what to tell you. Read Althea, people, if you want to know what I'm talking about. Yeah, she's great. It's one of the... no, it's not one of the best parts of Althea. The fact that she's this good of a character while not being a POV is one of the reasons Althea is fantastic, because she's not the only character in Althea who does that. But that is my pick for this prompt. So I'm going to do the next two prompts together, and you're going to see why. It is Kyle, your favorite antagonist in fantasy, and Kennit, a character you love to hate. And I'm going to do a little reverse card here. So for the Kyle prompt, I'm going to choose Kennit. And for the Kennit prompt, I'm going to choose Kyle, because I actually feel they both represent the prompt more. I don't know if Kennit counts as an antagonist, but he probably should, because he's awful. But he's probably an antagonist, and he's my favorite antagonist in fantasy. I also think he's the most complicated, multifaceted character who's ever been put on the page. He's not my favorite character because he kind of sucks. And in general, my favorite characters tend to be people who are, mostly good. But he's my favorite morally... He's not gray. He's my favorite not good guy in fantasy by quite a lot, probably. He is the only... Not quite the only, but I can't say that person's name. He is one of the only morally gray characters who I'm actually, really emotionally invested in. As much as someone like Glokta is fascinating, and I can read about doing the many thing, when bad things happen to Glokta, or there's an emotional moment with Glokta, I don't cry for Glokta, because Glokta's terrible. Kennit is as terrible, and, he makes me just feel so much, and Robin Hobb is so good at he's such a unique character as well. He's a bastard in such a unique way. The way he sees the world is unlike anything else I've ever read. I think, the way he sees the world, he doesn't get people, is so interesting. Some of, one of the most angry I have ever been is, so Kennit is my favorite antagonist in the genre, and then for the Kennit prompt, which is character I love to hate, I'm going to pick Kyle, who is, I don't think, as complicated as a character, but is the character I hate or love to hate more than anyone else. I think there is a circle of the universe, and the circle goes like this. People hear me say how terrible Kyle is. They're like, he's probably not that bad. And then they read like 6 chapters of Ship of Magic. And they're like, I hate Kyle so much, he's the worst. I will throw him into the sun and scatter the ashes across the universe. Kyle is, if you list the bad things he does, and you list the bad things of, like, other hateable characters, from, like, let's say Joffrey Baratheon. Like, Joffrey is a worse person than Kyle. And it isn't even close. Or Ramsay's a way worse person than Kyle. Even someone like Tywin Lannister's probably a worse person than Kyle. Thing that makes Kyle so hateable is how well you understand him. And, like, from his point of view, everything he does makes so much sense. Like, if you were to interview Kyle and you hadn't read the series, he could explain why everyone else was being stupid, and he was the voice of wisdom and reason. And if you didn't know the context, he would probably be somewhat convincing. And somehow understanding him and where he's come from just makes him feel like a person and makes me hate him even more. Also, he's a terrible father. Screw that guy. Yeah, I hate Kyle. He's the worst. So he gets the Kennit prompt. So they flipped. Yay. And finally, we have the Vivacia tag, which is my favorite sentient object. And I'm kind of backed in a corner here, because I only have 2 answers that are at all honest. And one of them is the answer that literally everyone else has picked. And the other one is cheating, because it's a Hobb character. But I'm going to just tell you both. The Hobb character is the real answer, so I'm going to give that. The one that everyone else picked is Warbreaker. It's Nightblood. If you want to know why Nightblood is great, watch literally any other Robin Hobb book tag. Nightblood is like the most powerful sword that can kill anything, and he's just so, like, upbeat. He's like, hey, do you want to destroy some evil today? Doesn't that sound fun? You didn't use me to destroy evil. Oh. You didn't use me properly. You were supposed to destroy. And he's just so fun. And he doesn't understand evil. Like, he doesn't understand morality. He's a piece of metal. Anyways. But everyone picked Nightblood. But I love Nightblood. The real answer is the Mad Ship, also known as the Paragon, also known as the Pariah, who, again, going to Nightblood, remember, or not Nightblood, Nighteyes. The Paragon is a boat, it's a live ship, so is Vivacia, but I think I like the Paragon more. The Paragon is, once again, despite being a boat, actually one of the most complicated, multifaceted, deep characters in the genre, who, if you go to my, like, top 10 favorite characters list, he was one of the honorable mentions, and, he was one of the honorable mentions who beat, like, almost all the characters on that list, but just couldn't be on it because he's by the same author as Fitz. Like, his relationships, backstory, emotions, like, voice, and even development are so next level, and he's a boat. Like, what are we even doing here? He is a boat and has more psychological depth than, like, 99% of characters in the genre. Literally doesn't make sense. He's such an amazing character. Like, he gets point of views. There are boat point of views, and they're so good. His relationships with, like, Amber, Brashen, Althea, other people who I can't say, are like so multifaceted. Like, this is just at the start of the book, so this isn't a spoiler, but Brashen's relationship with the Paragon is Brashen. So the Paragon likes Brashen. He's kind of crazy. He doesn't like a lot of people, but he kind of understands that Brashen has like destructive tendencies, and it's like literally the relationship. This is the relationships that I don't even understand how Hobb writes. Like, how do you understand the relationship between like a sailor and an insane boat? He doesn't even sail on the insane boat. Like a sailor who sails on other boats and an insane boat. And it's so next level. Whatever. So, this is... Paragon is the answer of what I'm picking for the Vivacia tag. I feel like it's not as much cheating if I pick a Hobb character not named after the tag. Like, the only spot I broke that rule for was Nighteyes, just because I'm not willing to say that anyone other than Nighteyes is the best animal companion in fantasy. But I feel like the others aren't as much cheating, because, like, I'm not picking Kyle for Kyle, and I'm not picking Kennit for Kennit, and I'm not picking Althea for Althea. I'm picking, like, other people, or Fitz for Fitz. Fitz is, the Fitz tags pick a book. Whatever. You know what I mean? This definitely isn't cheating. Maybe. So the final one is tag some friends. I feel like everyone has probably already been tagged. This tag has been out for a while. I meant to do it earlier, but broken computer. But I know one person hasn't done it, because they hadn't started Robin Hobb. But I tag She Was the Only Evie, who has read like 5 chapters of Assassin's Apprentice and did like the TBR swap with me, where she's starting Assassin's Apprentice early and I'm going to start doing Messiah early, and she's already loving it. So this is going extremely well. In honor of you kicking off The Realm of the Elderlings, the best series in the genre, and of all time, I am tagging you to answer these questions, and I'm curious to see after you're done. Like, now you won't want to answer anyone with, like, Hobb characters because you've had 5 chapters of Assassin's Apprentice. You may want to answer it for book that made you cry, but the others presumably not. So I'm curious to see, like, in a year, how many you will want to answer with Hobb characters compared to now. So I tag you to do this, despite the fact that you've only read 5 chapters of the series. I actually think it could be interesting, because me doing it was actually kind of probably a little bit frustrating, because I wanted to answer Robin Hobb characters for like every single answer, and you presumably won't. Whatever. That's who I'm tagging. If anyone else wants to do this and hasn't been tagged, I would have tagged you if I knew you hadn't been tagged. Pranav, from now on, I'm going to tag you in literally every tag to continue the growing effort to peer pressure you into making a YouTube channel. Yeah. So, Robin Hobb tag, you love Robin Hobb, and have read a lot of books. So, Robin Hobb tag, you're tagged, Pranav. If you don't do it, you failed everyone involved. Okay, everyone, that was a joke. Anyways, bye, everyone.